We're now ready to write a custom function that we can use to display the list view of a shirt in both index.php and in shirts.php. Let's name this function something like getListViewHTML. For the arguments, we'll want to pass in the product ID and the interior product array for a single shirt. You can include multiple arguments in the argument list for a function if you separate them with a comma. In this new function, we'll want to build a string with the HTML needed to display the shirt in our list view. We'll then want the function to pass back that HTML as the return value. Now, where should we put this function? We can't put it in shirts.php because we also need it available in index.php. We'll need to put it in an include file so that both pages can access it. Since it's related to products, and we'll only need this function when we have access to the main products array, we can put it in our existing products.php include file. Open up the products.php include file in your text editor. Here's the code we just wrote that creates the structure of this function. We already have code that builds the HTML output for a single shirt in the list view over in shirts.php, but we need to move it over here into our function so that other files can access it. Open up shirts.php. Here's the code that displays the list items for each shirt. Let's move this code over to our function. Right now, this code echoes out the HTML. This works, but it's better with functions like this to return the HTML to the main code as a piece of text instead of displaying it straight to the screen. This gives our main code a little bit more flexibility when calling this function. Let's use concatenation to build this list item as a piece of text. Let's first create a variable called output with a blank value. Then, on each line of code in this function, we'll concatenate more text to the end of that variable. Let's replace the echo commands with concatenation. Before this line of code, output has a blank value. This line of code adds an open list item tag to the end of that blank value. We'll copy that bit down to the next line. On this line, the output variable has an open list item tag, and we'll concatenate at the end of that an opening anchor tag. We'll do the same thing for the rest of these lines, concatenating each new element onto the end of the existing string. Now, instead of echoing the list item to the screen, we're building a variable that contains that list item. We can then return the HTML for that list item to the main code. Since we've moved the code out of shirts.php, we need to replace it with code that calls this function. When we call the function, we want to echo out the return value. We need to pass in the product ID as the first argument, which we are loading into a working variable called product ID in the for each loop. For the second argument, we pass in the interior product array, which our for each loop is loading into a variable called product. For each product now, as we loop through them one at a time, we pass the product information into our function and get back the HTML for that product. We then echo out the return value to the screen. The search listing page hasn't changed much. It's working essentially the same as it was before, but we now have the code in a function that we can use on other pages. Let's take a look at shirts.php in the browser. As you can see, no change. I'll copy the whole for each loop here from shirts.php. We can replace the for each loop here and all of the HTML to display the list items with the for each loop and the function call from shirts.php. Let's now take a look at the home page in the browser. You can see now it lists all 8 shirts just like it does on the shirts listing page. However, on the home page, we only want to display the last 4 items. Let's next limit the code in index.php to display only the 4 latest shirts.